One day, he was involved in a traffic accident, and when he woke up, I had been reincarnated as a genius teacher at a magic academy named Chris. But whether it was a trick of the gods or fate, this person had a major flaw. In this world where every living being except monsters can use magic, he was an illegal player, someone completely unable to use magic. There was only one way to avoid being deemed a monster and executed: to fully play the role of a lazy, but secretly talented teacher and keep fooling the gifted students around him. However, maybe he played the role too well. At the beginning of the story we see Valdar Academy. And an announcement is made: Valdar Academy graduation representative, Michael Foxon. Michael Foxon, step forward. Michael Foxon comes forward and addresses everyone, and he says, "Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Foxon, a graduate of the second class of Valdar Academy." Then we see the protagonist of this story. He is sitting on a branch of a tree, and he is saying, "Hard to believe that the guy who used to stumble over simple greetings is standing here now. Well, from here, he just looks like a talking cotton swab or something, but really, no one else has hair that white except Michael. You've grown so much, Michael. Not that I actually taught you anything worthwhile as your homeroom teacher. Truly, there were countless events over those years. It was so hard staying in character beside the protagonist of a fantasy novel. But now I've completed the main quest. Goodbye to 3 years of over-the-top character settings. Now begins my long-awaited slow life." Then Michael Foxon says, "But I owe it all to someone worthy of being called a true mentor, Professor Chris." By the way, the name of the protagonist is Chris Doton. And Michael Foxon has just taken the name of that person, due to which he gets shocked, and he says, "Why is my name coming up?" And Michael Foxon further says, "If I hadn't met you, I wouldn't be who I am today. Thank you for never giving up on me, even when I was weak and pitiful, and for guiding me. I also know you have your reasons for not being able to stay at the academy any longer. So please, give me a chance to repay you. I'll follow you for the rest of my life." Chris Doton is in great shock and says, "No, no, no. You're the protagonist. Your story is just getting started. The whole world is waiting for you. Do you have any idea how many scouts came just to recruit you?" Michael Foxon further says, "And it's not just me. All of us, my classmates, trained by your hand, we've gathered here for one purpose: to follow Chris Doton. We, all 5 of us, pledge our loyalty to Chris Doton." Chris Doton gets stunted and says, "Wait, what is this situation? How did it come to this? I'm just an ordinary, powerless person from another world who can't even cast a single spell. Did I mess up the character settings?" Chris Doton tells about his story and he says, "This all started before I ever became a teacher at Valdar Academy, right after the car accident. That day, as my consciousness faded, something suddenly appeared in front of me. A system window opened in front of him, main quest. The Earth God's wish. A new life. 2. Something. Accept quest? Yes or no?" Chris Doton is looking at the system window in surprise, and he thinks, "What the heck am I seeing? Am I really about to die?" That's what I thought, until I saw that one word. I want to live. There's no way I'm dying here. My life is just getting started. In that moment, I chose to live. Without hesitation, I pressed the button. Yes. Then his eyes open inside the novel. He wakes up in a shock. A lady is standing in front of him, who is happy that Chris Doton has woken up. Chris Doton was surprised to see the things around him, and he thinks, huh? Wait, she can't see the message window? But more importantly, when Chris Doton heard his name from that lady, he was surprised. Then that lady gives Chris Doton his ID card and says to him, "Yes, Mr. Chris Doton. Here is your ID." Chris Doton looks at his ID card and it is written in it that he is a new teacher. His name is Chris Doton and he is also a teacher of Valdar Academy. And he says, "New teacher at Valdar Academy? Wait, this isn't even Japanese. Why can I read it? Today was supposed to be your first day. The entrance ceremony has already ended, but since it was a train accident, the Academy will understand." Train accident. Then he says to the lady, "Excuse me, could I borrow a mirror?" Then the system window opens in front of him. Main quest: the Earth Gods wish 1-to-1. Welcome. You have been reincarnated as Chris Doton, a new teacher at Valdar Academy. You will spend the next 3 years completing quests as Chris Doton. Chris Doton thinks, I've been reincarnated. No wonder those cheesy isekai lines felt natural. And Valdar Academy, that's from the fantasy novel I used to read for fun. The Strongest Demon King Hero, the story of a weak protagonist who awakens as a demon bloodline heir, sweeping aside all enemies with cheat abilities, and ends with world domination and a harem. Classic. But that was a while ago. I don't even remember how many chapters one read. Also, who the heck is Chris Doton? Chris Doton is looking at the system window. A teacher must have disciples. Reach the front gate of Valdar Academy within the time limit. Reward: Map of Valdar Academy, April 1st, remaining time, midnight. Penalty: death. Chris Doton gets a huge shock when he sees the penalty. And he punches the system window and says, "Penalty: death? I just died, and now you're saying I'll die again if I fail." The lady is shocked as she could not see the system window. Also, she cannot understand Chris Doton's problem, and she says, "Mr. Chris, you need rest." Wait, who are you yelling at? Next day, Chris Doton leaves for the academy, and he is mumbling on the way, and he says, "I forced her to discharge me early, but I'm still kinda sore. Also, starting out as a new teacher with barely any money sucks. Half my savings vanished at that clinic. So far, all I've figured out is that the currency is gold, and the academy is a half-day's walk from here. Also, who is Chris, really? Still, I've always wanted to try this." Status window open. And Chris Doton starts looking at his status. Fame, 0/shut-in mage, magic, S/human magic crystal, strength, F/good condition, agility, F/like a snail, defense, F/like a wet sheet of paper. Skill, illegal players cannot use skills. Chris Doton gets a little surprised and says, "What? 3 Fs and I can't use any skills? Okay, stats are one thing, but I can't use magic? And illegal? Did I reincarnate through a pirated version or something? This is bad. Really bad. In this world setting, the only beings who can't use magic are monsters. And I'm supposed to be a teacher at the continent's top academy? This isn't just bad, it's a death sentence. Maybe I should run away? At this rate, my last words are gonna be, can't use magic, but I swear I'm not a monster." But Chris Doton looks at the remaining time, which is just 23 hours 52 minutes and 48 seconds remaining. And so he says, I get it. Arg, I don't have time for this. This is my second chance at life. The one bit of luck. My fame is listed as shut-in mage, and I do have experience. I once got reported in an online game for too realistic role-playing. That just means it was good. So, I'll play this as the mysterious, super powerful mage who never shows her true strength. For 3 years, I will survive by pretending I'm the real deal. Then we see the gate of the Welder Academy. A statue in the form of a monster key is guarding the gate, but he is getting very bored, and he thinks the entrance ceremony was a week ago, so no one's around. Then he feels something dangerous, due to which the stone statue starts sweating. When he looks ahead, he feels a dangerous aura which is coming from our protagonist. And he gets scared and he thinks, who's this guy? What immense magical power. Must be a teacher. I heard the new teacher got into a train accident. It's only natural for academy teachers to have monstrous power, but no. This is far beyond that. That scar on the forehead. Hair black as a wild beast's mane. Skin pale as moonlight, eyes sunken like midnight. This is death. Death itself, in human form. Those red-black eyes have seen countless ends. There's a void behind him, a heavy emptiness. Chris Doton stops in front of the monster and says to him, to post a mere pebble like me at the gate. It's a disgrace to the academy. The monster was scared. But still he says to the protagonist, "You there, state your name and purpose." The protagonist smiles and says, "New teacher. Chris Doton. Now open the gate." Then Chris Doton goes inside the academy. But he was very scared inside. And he says, "Phew, that was close. I seriously thought that was the end of me. Well, at least I made it on time. But hey, this character setup is actually kind of cool. I'll call it the totally unmotivated ultimate teacher. A deadbeat who naps in front of his students instead of teaching, but in truth, a battle-hardened, overwhelmingly powerful warrior. The kind of person who guides the protagonist with sharp, insightful advice. In his past, Chris lost someone dear to him because of his own mistake. He hit rock bottom, until the headmaster of the academy appeared before him. That's how he ended up reluctantly coming here. The most important part of this backstory? He's traumatized and refuses to take on a disciple again. But he's also arrogant, believing weaknesses like you all aren't even worth teaching. If you want to see my magic, then get stronger first. This could work. Chris Doton is so engrossed in his thoughts that he does not even realize that blood is coming out from his wound. And seeing his blood, he gets surprised and says, "Don't tell me. Did the wound reopen from the accident?" The moment I saw the blood, a wave of pain and dizziness hit me. Then only the system window opens in front of him again. Quest complete, you received Valar Academy map for /1 as a reward. Chris Doton gets angry and shouts, "Is this a joke? Forget the map, give me something to heal myself. And with this setting, I can't even run to the infirmary." Then only a student comes behind Chris Doton and asks him if he is alright. Chris Doton turns back and looks at the student, and the student further says, "You're bleeding from the forehead. Looks like you're hurt." Looking at the student, Chris Doton thinks, that crest covering his cheek, this boy has a curse power. He's the protagonist of this story, Michael Foxon. He hasn't awakened yet, so his hair is still brown. Nervous and awkward, not a trace of the cheat-level power he'll have later. Still, I can't let my guard down. Stick to the plan. Be the totally unmotivated ultimate teacher. Then Chris Doton says to Michael Foxon, "Why are you here? Class 1's still in session, isn't it? What's a new student doing here?" Michael Foxon gets a little nervous, but he says, "I couldn't keep up with class, so the teacher told me not to come to the training grounds anymore." Chris Doton thinks, can't blame them. Right now, all Michael can probably manage is a basic fireball. The gap in skill between him and the others is obvious. Still, there's no excuse for a teacher to treat a student like that. Chris Doton says, "What a jerk." Michael Foxon gets scared after hearing this. He thinks that the protagonist used all this for him. So, his eyes get moist, and he says sorry to Chris Doton. But Chris Doton is shocked and he thinks, "Whoa, I wasn't even talking to you. Wait, are you crying?" Then Chris Doton says to him, "Ugh, this is a hassle. What class are you in?" At the same time he thinks, this is bad, I need to get him back to his classroom, fast. Then again the system window opens in front of him. Main quest. The Earth Gods wish 2-1. Today is your thrilling first day. As the new homeroom teacher for Class X, reach the classroom on time and conduct your first lesson. Reward, Valar Academy map, for halves, monkey keychain penalty. Death time remaining, 9 minutes and 48 seconds. Chris Doton thinks, even with a map, it's not like I know where to go. And based on everything so far, this has got to be my class. Michael Foxon fearfully says, "I am in Class X. Please spare my life." Chris Doton says to him, "Lead the way." And Michael Foxon fearfully says yes. And Chris Doton looks at him with sharp eyes and he says, "Did I stutter? I said lead the way." And now Michael Foxon gets very scared. After some time, Chris Doton has lifted Michael Foxon in his lap and he is taking him to Class 5. Then he reaches the class and puts Michael Foxon down. Michael Foxon is very scared. And there are 2 students in front of him, and they both say, "Whoa, Michael, don't freak out. Could you enter a room quietly for once? Geez, always trying to stand out. Just sit already." Just then Chris Doton enters the class. And then all the students feel something weird and everyone becomes silent. It seems as if silence has taken over the whole classroom. Then the protagonist goes to the front desk and he says to everyone that every last one of them is trash. This is the bunch I have to teach and guide? Valdar, have you lost your mind? Then the students start talking. Wait. Valdar? Is that the name of the headmaster? Anyway, who is that guy? He's bleeding from his head. Then a student raises his hand and says, "Excuse me, but who are you? This area is off limits to unauthorized personnel." This student's name is Nika Tot, Class X's honor student. Seeing Nika Tot, Chris Doton thinks, "Alright, Nika. Michael's friend, if I remember." Then the protagonist tells his name as Chris Doton. And Nika Tot further says, "Ah. Right, you're the one who was late because of that accident. That's why you're bleeding." But Chris Doton asks him to be quiet. But he thinks, "I just missed my timing, that's all. Don't talk about it, it's embarrassing." Okay, I made a strong entrance, but now I need to actually teach to clear the quest. In reincarnation stories, you're supposed to start with preloaded knowledge. Why do I know nothing? No choice then. Then Chris Doton gets up from a square and writes something on the blackboard. And he wrote, "Self-study." And he thinks, "I'll wing it with the right attitude." Michael Foxon gets surprised when he sees that Chris Doton is telling them that now they will have to do self-study. And Chris Doton lies down comfortably on the chair and he starts sleeping. At the same time he thinks, "This is so pathetic it's embarrassing, but this is when I have to be bold. Act like you aren't even worth explaining things to." Some students say, "Did he just fall asleep right there? He really went with self-study on the first day. That's insane." Chris Doton totally agrees. "Is this even going to count as a lesson?" Just then a girl stands up and shouts, "Mr. Chris, if this is a joke, please stop. This is in terrible taste. You didn't even show up at the entrance ceremony. How dare you insult the sacred education of Valdar Academy?" On hearing the girl's voice, Chris Doton understands that her name is Angelina, who is a possible heroine candidate. And Chris Doton thinks, Angelina Sharif, one of the heroine candidates. They called her the Ice Princess, if I recall. And on the surface, she's a duke's daughter. On the surface, anyway. Most of the students here are nobles. Still, I get it. This must be unbearable for her. It might cause problems later, but as Chris right now, this is all I can say. I know about Angelina's tragic past. It stings a little. But, then Chris Doton tells Angelina in a stern voice, "If you're unhappy, then leave." And Angelina gets shocked on hearing this. And Chris Doton further says, "You didn't hear me? I said if you're not satisfied, then get lost, Angelina Sharif." But Chris Doton thinks, "I'm so sorry, Angelina." But Angelina says to Chris Doton, "What did you just say?" So Chris Doton says, "Don't make me repeat myself. If you don't like my class, get out." But he thinks, "Sorry, Angelina. Forgive me for being the kind of teacher who can only say things like this to a previous student." Angelina starts grinding her teeth in anger. Then she says, "I have no interest in learning anything from someone like you." Michael Foxon tries to stop her, and he says, "Angelina." But leaving the classroom over this. But Angelina says to him, "With your ability, I doubt you'd keep up with any lesson anyway, and I don't have time to waste on some worthless teacher." Listening to Angelina's words, many other students also start leaving the classroom. And Chris Doton is watching his students leaving and he thinks, "That I figured this would happen. They're all proud nobles, after all. I wonder how many will even stick around in the end. I braced myself for this, but still. If I get fired, what then? All I can do is trust the headmaster to have my back." Then the system window opens, quest cleared. You resend. Map of Valar Academy 2/4. And monkey keychain. As rewards, Chris Doton thinks, "For now, I survived." Oh? It just happens that only the main characters are left. The protagonist Michael, the honor student Nika, and the potential heroines surrounding the main character. The twin-tailed girl is Dolce. The other girl is Belle, the healing type support. And one more who's not here yet. I'll introduce her later. Now then. Time to act like a real mentor and say something wise. Chris Doton stands up and says, "Teach magic half-heartedly and people die." Hearing Chris Doton's words, all the pending students' ears perk up, and they all get shocked, and Chris Doton says, "That's why Valdar Academy is a training ground for killers. Give a deadly weapon to someone who can't even control their own mana, and it won't be them who dies, it'll be someone else. Calling it an accident or mistake, that's just sugarcoating reality. Do you have the resolve to bear that responsibility?" But all students become quiet, and no one says anything. Then Chris Doton starts leaving from there. After some time, Chris Doton comes out of the classroom and stands near a wall, and he starts laughing and he says, "I think my lifespan just shortened by 10 years, creating a character whose life depends on their performance. Really is a whole other level. I need to adjust to this reality, and fast. Oh, right. That monkey keychain I got as a reward. What is this?" Chris Doton has a small monkey keychain in his hand and Chris Doton is happy seeing it, and he says, "What the heck? It's adorable. I personally love it, but if Chris carries this around, it'll totally ruin the vibe. I wonder if it has any effects?" Then suddenly the system window opens in front of him, and it says, "Equip item. Monkey. Chin? Yes or no. Once equipped, it cannot be removed for 5 minutes. Choose wisely." Chris Doton says, "So I won't know the effect until I equip it? Alright, let's just check what it does." The system says, "You equipped monkey keychain. While equipped, your agility increases by 1 rank. From F snail to E big bros snail." And Chris Doton becomes happy seeing this and he says, "An entire rank boost to agility. This is a cheat item. As long as I hide it under my clothes, it's fine. Higher agility means better offense and dodging." The system further tells Holmver, while Quipter's speech will end with, "Key." Example. The system is truly generous. Key. Chris Doton gets surprised on listening to the system's words. But he controls himself and says, "What did you just say? Are you implying I'm a monkey?" And Chris would never talk like that. A girl is watching all these actions of Chris Doton from behind, and she gets a bit surprised. Then she takes Chris Doton's name. And when Chris Doton turns back and looks, she is standing there. And he asks Chris Doton, "Why are you here?" Then Angelina is unable to move, she stops. And Chris Doton thinks, "Crap. I should have used a stealth spell." Angelina thinks, "The moment those Reaper-like eyes locked onto me, my mouth opened on reflex. There's no way any excuse would work on this person, not even the Duke Sharif family name. I know her type well. People who trust only in their own power and disregard everyone else, arrogant geniuses. That scornful gaze, I've seen it more than enough to last a lifetime. What now? You're not going to check my pockets, restrain me, or stop me from running? Is this what they call silent pressure?" Then Angelina says, "You saw, didn't you? That I was smoking. I won't deny it. I know it was wrong. I'm sorry. I'll accept whatever punishment is due." Angelina thinks, maybe it's good that he caught me. There's no way he'd let it slide anyway. Even if it hurts my reputation, if he tells me, "You're unfit to inherit anything," and rejects me outright, then maybe I can finally give everything up and just be free. Chris Doton touches Angelina's forehead with his finger and says to her, "Pathetic kidkey." Angelina thinks, "YH? What does that mean?" That look. It wasn't scolding or furious. It was like someone who had seen another suffer and meet a tragic end, just like them. Trying to numb the pain through reckless behavior is foolish and short-sighted. Key. No matter how powerful you are, you can't redo the past. That regret. That way of seeing echoes of the past in similar moments now. You're just like me. You're human too. So you weren't just some tyrannical generalist after all. Then Chris Doton starts leaving. And Angelina gets surprised when she sees a monkey keychain near Chris Doton. And she thinks, that monkey doll doesn't match your appearance at all. You must have gotten it from someone important, or maybe it's a memento. I'm sorry. for reminding you of something painful, and for acting out of line despite being such an amateur. But Chris Doton thinks, by the way, enforcing a no-smoking rule on campus doesn't fit your character at all, right? Wait, was she able to tell my speech turned into tea? After some time, Angelina comes back to her classroom and sits down. Chris Doton is surprised to see that Angelina is back? And Angelina says that's… don't misunderstand. I was just curious about Belle Fruzia's healing magic, that's all. And Nika Tot gets excited and he says, so, X class now has me, Nika Tot, Michael, Dolce, Belle, and Angelina. That makes 5. It's like a small elite unit. So cool. And Chris Doton thinks, well, the rest of the students all requested transfers out of this class. Dolce says, I wanted to show those useless extras what we're made of, right, Michael? Chris Doton thinks, as expected of Dolce, a real little devil-type heroine. And Belle says, Dolce, don't tease Michael. The teacher is about to explain today's lesson. Face forward. Professor, what will we be doing today? Chris Doton says, well, I guess it's finally time for a real lesson. If I could avoid it, I would. Then he says to the student, today's lesson is field training. And the system says to Chris Doton, main quest, one of the Earth God 1 to 3, first real tracking mission. Take the X-class students to Vinitz Plains and slay monsters. Complete all objectives within the time limit. Reward. Map of Valdar D, 3/4, rusted sword penalty. You already know, right? Monsters defeated 0 out of 50. Time remaining, 24 hours. After some time, we see the beautiful place. Then a teleportation formation opens and Chris Doton and his students come out from it. And Angelina says, the Vinitz Plains? So this is where the field training will take place. Nika Tot is excited. And he looks at Chris Doton with shining eyes and he says, wow. Professor, we haven't even been given weapons yet, and you're already using teleportation magic? But Chris Doton thinks, no, that wasn't me. We were just in the classroom, and the next thing I know, we were here. What's going on? Spatial magic isn't something students can use. And then Dolce looks at Chris Doton's head and she says, wait, there's a shadow over Professor's head. And the students think, that must mean we were summoned here by someone else. That's a horned rabbit. There are horned rabbits behind Chris Doton. And the system tells Chris Doton, teleportation by an unknown party confirmed. You have arrived at the designated location. And Chris Doton thinks, we were brought here by a third party. Dolce shouts, it's a horned rabbit. Angelina says, Professor, there's a boss monster right behind you. Chris Doton looks back in fear and thinks, am I going to die? And the system tells Chris Doton that the remaining time is 23 hours 59 minutes and 59 seconds left. Until now he had not hunted even one of the 50 monsters. And there are 2 dangerous monsters in front of Chris Doton, as well as the boss monster. And Chris Doton thinks, get a grip. Right now, I'm Chris Doton. What would he do in this situation? To him, this kind of thing wouldn't even count as playtime. He'd probably use it as a chance to test the students. Then Chris Doton shouts and says to the students, you fools. Have you already forgotten why we're here? Angelina says, what? You can't be serious. You expect us to train in this situation? Do you even know what's behind us? But Nika Tot is excited and says, get it now. Angelina. That must mean Professor will handle the boss himself. We just have to take care of the smaller ones. Chris Doton gets happy and thinks, what a model student. He just saved my character with that perfect interpretation. Dolce says, so we're just on minion clean-a-do? And Angelina looks at Chris Doton with scared eyes but she says, I understand. You must have a plan. I believe you wouldn't knowingly put us in danger. And Angelina takes out her spear and stands in a fighting posture. And she moves forward and starts attacking the monster. And seeing this, Belle says, leave support to me. If anyone gets hurt, I'll heal you right away. Michael Foxon starts gathering fire in his hands to use his fire magic. Chris Doton is happy to see Michael Foxon's fire magic and he thinks, great job, everyone. As expected of the story's main cast and their companions. This is going smoothly. Slowly, all the students together start killing the monsters and slowly the number of monsters killed is increasing. But then the monster's saliva drops on Chris Doton's shoulder, feeling which Chris Doton is shocked. When he turns back, there is a three-horned rabbit in front of him and Chris Doton gets a little scared after seeing it, and he thinks, right, I forgot that guy was here. Honestly, I'd rather pass out before I even feel the pain. No, it's too soon to give up. Even if I get eaten, there's still a chance I survive. If I fail this quest, I'll definitely die, so it's smarter to choose the first option instead. Then Michael Foxon sees that Chris Doton has been attacked by Boss Monster and eaten. And seeing this, Michael Foxon gets a big shock and he starts running to save Chris Doton. But he thinks, right before my eyes someone died. Again. Is it because I'm weak? Because I'm a failure? Who can't even defeat a single monster? Is this my fault? Just then Belle goes and stops Chris Doton. And tries to make him understand. But Michael Foxon says, let go of me, Belle. Professor's still over there. But Belle says it's already too late. Professor sacrificed himself for us. Monsters that size get sluggish once they're full. But Michael Foxon says, no. You're wrong. Belle, you're good at healing magic, right? With your power, maybe we can still save him. But Belle says, I'm sorry, Michael. And Michael Foxon starts remembering his old memories when he had stopped Chris Doton. And he had told him, I know I have no right to say this. Booty want to be stronger. I want to be strong enough to take on all responsibility on my own. If I can do that, I'll do whatever it takes. Michael Foxon thinks, he's going to laugh at me again, right? Then Chris Doton smiles and he had told Michael Foxon at that time, you will become strong, Michael. Michael Foxon remembers all these things and says, he was the only one who ever said that to me. No one else ever believed in Dolce shouts, let's just fight our way out of here ourselves. It'd be faster than waiting around, and Michael Foxon thinks, that's why I want to give everything I have today. People like all of you are what it means to be strong. I'm just a burden. I should have been the one eaten instead. Michael Foxon is lost in his own thoughts, and is not listening to Belle's words. Tears are falling from his eyes and he is thinking, it wasn't Professor or Mom who should have died. Then the demon inside him says, it should have been. You want power, don't you, Michael? Then take my hand. Let us become one. It was me. And the demon inside Michael Foxon was about to control Michael Foxon's intellect. Then Michael Foxon stops, and he hears someone's voice. And someone says, everyone stop. And the protagonist appears in front of them, covered in blood. He has killed the boss monster and asks, why are you running? Can't you see the monsters still swarming around us? Chris Doton and his students have killed 27 out of 50 monsters so far. The quest is already half completed. Nika gets happy to see Chris alive and says, as expected, Professor? You're alive. Did you let yourself get eaten on purpose to attack from the inside? Chris thought, no way. Thanks for interpreting it like that, though. Then he said, you're noisy. I told you today was your field training, did not I? You forgot your objective and tried to run away. On listening to Chris's words, Nika again goes ahead to fight with the rabbit monster, and he says, I'm sorry. I'll return to training right away. Belle tells him, Nika-san. It's dangerous to go back alone. Then Dolce says, Professor, even if those idiots manage to get through that, my eyes won't miss a thing, you know. I'll find out what you're plotting sooner or later, so look forward to it, okay? On listening to Dolce's words, Chris thought, yep. This kid is definitely my top threat. Scary. Scary. I wish I could switch classes. Seeing Chris safe and sound, Michael and Angelina have tears in their eyes. But Chris is a little confused as to why they are getting so emotional. Anyway, seeing them both, Chris thought, are they crying because of me? What kind of protagonist is this girl? And she still hasn't fully awakened. Angelina said honestly. Was it really necessary to go that far? Even after you were eaten, we kept fighting without giving up. I thought this was a kind of test. But if you had the power to defeat it in one hit, you should have done it from the start. That was way too dangerous for just a performance. Chris thought, what should I do? They're misunderstanding everything, but I don't really feel like explaining. Because, by eating me, who possessed S-rank magic power, that monster, its stomach just burst from overeating. Then he said to both of them, I believe I said if you're unhappy with my methods, then leave. Also he thought, anyway, let's calm them down and get them back to training. Angelina said, I doubt we'll never make the same mistake again. Michael said crying, I am sorry. Please don't abandon me, Professor. Chris thought, I'm kinda feeling guilty now. Chris said, then you all get going too. At the same time he thought, I really do want to explain everything properly, but every living being in this world possesses magic power. Among them, monsters are born with relatively little magic power, so they have no choice but to absorb it from other life forms. The human species in particular, which holds overwhelming amounts of magic power, is often targeted by monsters. Magic power, as human magic crystal. However, all I have is an overwhelming amount of magic power. In other words, to them, I'm the ultimate dish, premium foie gras topped with caviar. But what happens if you try to stuff a watermelon into a small plastic bag? Magic power that exceeds capacity can't be absorbed and just bursts the container. Well, I didn't really think it would go that smooth. Anyway, now that the boss is dead, the small fry would normally come after us. Dolce attacks the rabbit monster using water magic, while Angelina attacks the monsters using birth magic and freezes them. Chris is shocked to see their power level and thinks, but these kids are perfectly in sync even without being taught anything. It looks like I don't need to worry. In that case, at the very least, I need to be able to protect myself. Chris uses monkey keychain, item monkey keychain equipped. While equipped, agility increases by 1 rank. F-Snail, to Big Bro E-Snail. Chris is about to fight the rabbit monster and he thinks, I probably won't need to give the students any more orders, so I'll boost my agility here. But the rabbit monster has more agility than him and Chris barely dodges the punch. But he still gets a little injured and his heart is pounding, and he thinks, hi. If I were still F-rank, half my cheek would have been gone. I'm not Umpaman, you know. The other students are easily killing the rabbit monsters and so far they have defeated 49 out of 50. And Dolce smiles and says, I'm so sorry, I thought I got them all, but it looks like one slipped through. Someone is watching them all from a distance, and he is sitting on top of a dragon, and he says, I can't believe it. I thought it was just a possibility, but it's really Chris, isn't it? Seeing him, Chris thought, who is this guy? He totally looks like he's screaming, I'm the mastermind. With that appearance, wait a second. Could he be the one who teleported us here? The man comes down and says to Chris, where have you been and what have you been doing all this time? How long has it been since I last saw that beautiful face? Do you know how much I've wanted to see you? Chris is a little confused. He thought, wasn't he wearing a hood to hide his identity? And what's his relationship with Chris? That's the look of a maiden in love. Chris tries to remember who is the man standing in front of him. His students are also surprised and they also want to know who that man is. Chris thought, you've got it all wrong, everyone. I seriously have no idea who this guy is. The man says, what's the matter? Aren't you happy to see me? If you're still mad about what happened back then, I'm sorry. Chris thought, what are you talking about? And where did Chris even meet this guy? Ah, no good. I have to pretend to be Chris, for now. Michael calls Chris from behind but Chris does not reply. When Michael sees Chris's serious face, they become a little cautious, and they think that man is dangerous. It's the first time I've seen a professor be so cautious. Michael thought, on top of that, he commands monsters like they're his own children. Could he be the one who unleashed the rampaging horned rabbit? And the man said, I thought someone had killed my precious darlings, but to think it was Chris. Michael thought if it weren't for the professor, I'd have been killed without a word. The man said. The master said he wanted to check on the young master's progress. I was thinking about killing one of his friends right in front of him, but I never expected you to show up. Try to see things from my perspective too, okay? Chris's students get scared after hearing the man's words, but Chris asks them to remain calm. And the man further says, "You're the one who ruined my mission, so why have you been quiet all this time?" "Well, I guess making excuses wouldn't suit you anyway." Michael thinks, "Professor, despite having such a face full of murderous intent, why do you just accept it without fighting back? Could it be because we're here? You can tell how furious that person is just from their aura alone. It's difficult even for Professor to defeat that person while protecting us. It's frustrating. I'm still nothing but a burden to the Professor. With my current power, I can only manage to finish off monsters that are already near death." Then the man says to Michael, "You're just following the Master's orders too, so I won't get in your way. But if you smiled and said, 'Good job,' to me, it would lift my spirits." Michael thinks, "But that person also seems to care deeply about the Professor." "No, but look at Professor's eyes. This is just his selfish form of courtship." The man says, "If it's difficult, I'll set things up for you. You've always praised my face for being beautiful, after all." But then Chris summons the sword and points it at the man's neck, because of which the man gets surprised. Michael was nervous because Chris took action and placed the sword on the neck of that stranger. And he tries to understand what just happened. And he thought, what just happened? Where did that sword even come from? There are only a handful of people on the continent who can wield creation magic. But if it's Professor Chris, maybe it's not impossible. Then Chris said to the stranger, "What nonsense have you been spouting all this time? Talk in your sleep, you trash." The stranger gets a little nervous, but he says, "So you're still holding a grudge about that, huh?" Chris smiled, but inside he was nervous, and he thinks that I am saved. It's thanks to the protagonist defeating the 50th one. I can't tell you how much I wish for it in my heart. I was praying that even just one of those lying on the ground would be finished off. A little while ago, Michael was disappointed that his power level is not equal to Chris and that stranger. So he was sad, but he did the right thing by killing a monster. Due to which the task which Chris got from the system, of defeating 50 monsters, was completed. Due to which Chris got a reward from the system, and the system tells him, as a reward, you have obtained Map of Vital Academy, 3/4, and Ancient Sword. Remove the monkey key holder, and equip the rusty sword. And as soon as Chris gets the ancient sword, he asks the system to equip it quickly. And the rusty sword gets equipped. That is why Chris had the rusty sword in his hand, and he placed the sword on the throat of that stranger. And the system tells him about the rusty sword, which can cut through most things. Usable durability, 3/3. Chris says thanks to Michael, and he thought, thanks to him, I somehow managed to protect both my life and my dignity. Well done, Michael. Then the stranger said to Chris, doesn't seem like you're in the mood to talk today, so I'll come back another time. If you ever need help, you can always contact me through the master. But Chris said to him in harsh words, if you don't want your mouth torn open, then disappear already. But he thought, I'm really glad you quietly backed off. Then the stranger goes away from there. After he left, Michael looked at the students, and all the students were scared. Dolce said, man, I seriously couldn't even breathe. I ran out of mana. Michael asked if she is okay? But Chris does not answer him. He tells Angelina, send a messenger to the Angelina Academy. Tell them we need a carriage for our return. Angelina said, understood. In that case, I wish we had called for reinforcements sooner. But Dolce said, if only the teacher used spatial magic, it would have been over in a flash. Chris did not answer Dolce's question. Instead, Michael said, Miss Dolce is just tired, and maybe she wants some time to think about things. Hearing Michael's answer, tears came in Chris's eyes, and he thought, I'm really glad you were here today, Michael. Then, all members of Class X returned safely. The next day, Chris is completing his daily routine, but he thought, starting off hard, What kind of life has Chris lived up to now? I thought about it on the way back. That bandaged guy is probably the character named Maria. But there aren't many who can create chimeras or control monsters. There was no visual description of them in the original story, being followed by someone that obviously shady. I can only sense trouble coming. What Chris had thought happens exactly like that. There is a man in front of him, seeing whom Chris is confused. By the way, this character's name is Eugene, who is the homeroom teacher of Class Y. And he said hello to Chris and said, "You haven't had lunch yet, right? I did not see you in the cafeteria." Chris thought, looking at Eugene. All right. Him too. What happened during this field training was so abnormal that the students of Class X were summoned immediately by the principal. However, for some reason, the principal's decision was to reinforce the defense magic circle and to impose a gag order regarding the incident. And also, one person was assigned to monitor me. It's this narrow-eyed teacher. The principal probably realized the person who approached me was part of the Demon Lord's army. And since there's a chance I'm colluding with them, he assigned this guy to watch me. Over a decade ago, the Demon King was defeated by the Holy Emperor and is believed to have vanished from this world. But just like in every fantasy cliché, he's been lurking in the shadows, scheming his resurrection. The protagonist holds himself back and takes revenge on them. That's the premise behind the strongest Demon King hero in this story. I'm in a tricky position, caught between the principal, who's on the Holy Emperor's side, and the Demon Lord's army. If I get on this guy's radar, I'm seriously screwed. Eugene asked Chris, "What do you say? Want to have lunch together?" But Chris said, "You've been babbling nonstop. You're such an eyesore, so disappear already." Eugene said, "I see. Was my voice too loud? Then, how about this volume? I actually get told a lot that I have a nice voice." Seeing Eugene's weird antics, Chris gets very angry inside, but he controls his anger and thinks, "Ha! Is this guy a pervert too? Everyone around me likes this or what?" And Chris said to Eugene in harsh words, "I said shut that mouth of yours." But Eugene laughed at Chris's words and said, "Well, that would be difficult." "Well, that would be but if you were to cover them with your own hands, teacher." Chris said, "Shove your own fist in your mouth." Then Chris gets a new quest by the system. Wish of the Earth God 1-4, building relationships with fellow teachers is also important. Try inviting a fellow teacher to hold a joint class. Rewards 1. Map of Vital Academy for 4ths 2. Rotten Mandragora route, asterisk if you fail, you die. Remaining time, 48 hours. Chris thought, they're not even trying to hide their malice anymore. Do it or die is basically the default now. At this point, I have no choice but to use this guy. He's the homeroom teacher of neighboring Class Y. He has the most students who transferred from Class X. But how am I supposed to bring up something like that while staying in character? It's not like I'm a tsundere character. No, wait. The quest says to hold a joint class, but it doesn't say we have to become friends. In that case, there's no need to force myself to act nice. Then Chris said to Eugene with a serious face, "Hey you. Because of you, I wasted 5 whole minutes of my time. I'd love to make you pay for that right now, but may my master come to love many more things. If that happened, that child would end up sad." Chris felt a little cringy while saying all this and thought, ugh. Even though I made this backstory myself, it's so painfully cringy. Chris continued and said, "If you want to get close to me that badly, let's have a match. The trash you were teaching and the scum I raised. We'll see who is better." At the same time he thought, of course he wouldn't refuse. The principal ordered him to approach me and to extract information that altered all. Eugene asked, "Do you mean a match between our students?" Chris said, "If I win, don't ever show your face in front of me again." Eugene thought for a while and then said yes. And smilingly said, "You come up with surprisingly fun ideas. Then if I win, will you treat me to a meal?" Chris thought, why is he so obsessed with food? It's such a mystery. Then he said, "There's no chance you'll win?" Eugene said, "Well, fine. It sounds fun. So, when should we do it?" Then Chris says, "Tomorrow afternoon." Eugene said, "Got it. Then see you tomorrow." Chris turns back and starts leaving, but he thinks, the outcome doesn't matter. As long as we can hold a joint class, that's enough. But honestly, with all the nerdy characters in Class X, I don't really think we'll lose. And someone was secretly listening to their conversation. And we see that it is Nika. And Nika has completely heard their conversation and he says, "Teacher, are you having us compete against another class because you believe in us?" The entire academy was buzzing. Whispers turned to shouts in the hallways. "Have you heard the news? Class X and Class Y are going head-to-head. Let's go check it out." Wait, wasn't Class X the one where half the students tried to quit on the first day? Yeah. Just making eye contact with their teacher is terrifying. But then came the real piece of gossip, one that sent shockwaves through the student body. And the best part? It's not just about bragging rights. Professor Eugene's date is on the line. Meanwhile, Nika Tot burst into his classroom like a whirlwind, flinging the door open with a dramatic crash. "Everyone! Are you all here already?" Inside, his 4 closest classmates looked up in surprise. Dolce, lounging lazily at her desk, yawned. "You called this an emergency, so I came. What's going on?" Angelina, twirling her ice blue hair with a smirk, sighed. "I've got dinner plans, so this better be quick." Nika grinned. "I'm sure you've already heard, we're going up against Class Y." Angelina shrugged. "Yeah, teacher said she'd explain it again, but there's gotta be more to it than that, right?" Nika leaned in, voice lowering conspiratorially. "Bet you didn't hear this part. If we lose, Professor Eugene gets to go on a date." The room fell silent. Wide eyes. Jaws dropped. "Wait, what?" Dolce choked. Angelina laughed in disbelief. "Haha, wait, are you serious? You sure you didn't mishear or just imagined it?" Nika crossed his arms, puffing out his chest. "I'm a tot. And tots don't lie. I overheard them myself. They were talking about it." Michael, usually quiet, perked up. A date? With our teacher?" Dolce added with a teasing grin. "I mean, technically eating out with someone of the opposite sex is a date, right? But this is the first time anyone's heard anything like that about Professor Eugene." Angelina mused aloud. "True. I always figured he was more of a lone wolf." Nika slammed his fist into his palm. And then Professor Chris totally snapped, said if Class X wins, don't ever show your face again. That means Professor Eugene believes in us. We gotta go all out and make him proud. So basically, we can't lose, understood? Michael's eyes blazed. Okay, I am curious about the date. But there's no way we're losing to Class Y. We can't let the professor down. Angelina laughed, watching Michael's fists start to spark. Whoa, your fists are literally sparking, calm down. Meanwhile, Professor Chris stood by the training grounds, watching students gather. She sighed. This whole date thing's gotten way out of hand. Across from her, Professor Eugene approached with his usual unreadable expression. Chris eyed the difference between their classes. Just look at that numbers gap. There's no way this is balanced. Eugene spoke first. Are you familiar with the match format? One-on-one duels. First team to 3 wins takes it. Chris scoffed. Humph, what a hassle. Wouldn't it be faster to just let them all brawl at once? Eugene shook his head. It's too early to teach them team battles. Chris raised a brow. Oh? My students already pulled off combo attacks without blinking. That main character buff is ridiculous. Now then, choose your first fighter. Chris didn't hesitate. No need to overthink it. I've trained them well. Just level up and smash them down with brute force. Nika taught. Nika saluted, grinning ear to ear. Yes, sir. I'll return with victory in hand. Victory or death. Chris deadpanned. You don't have to go that far, it's just a match. At the arena, the referee raised a hand. First match, Nika Tot vs. Serena Gale. Whoever hits 0 first loses. Match ends immediately at that point. Fighters, take your positions. 3, 2, 1. Begin. Irina lunged in first, blade flashing. Nika inhaled deeply, and in a flash, his sword lashed out in a clean arc clang. Irina's sword flew from her hands and she skidded back, dropping to a knee. The crowd gasped. Referee. Class X's Nika Tot wins the first round. Nika jogged over to Irina, offering his hand. You okay? Here, I'll help you up. She gritted her teeth but smiled. I'll win next time. Chris's eyes widened. What the? Why isn't anyone else shocked? She overheard the other teachers chatting. Not bad. Well, it is the Tots. I'd expect no less. Chris nearly choked. Wait, what? That's tank-level damage, from a support class? Michael, off to the side, beamed. Nika's gotten crazy strong already. Chris sighed in relief. Phew, glad I'm not the only one freaking out. Eugene smiled. Alright, who's next? Chris smirked. Just pretend to think it over. I already know who. Angelina. Angelina snapped to attention. Understood. I'll easily claim another win. Chris planned ahead. We'll wrap this up cleanly. The Twin-Tails girl will finish it. No need to send in the healers or newbies. Michael looked at Chris with puppy dog eyes. Please, give me a chance. Dolce giggled, catching on. Why is he staring at me like that? Referee. Second match, begin. Angelina summoned her shimmering ice spear and charged. Her opponent parried, but Angelina's relentless assault pushed them back. The teachers watching murmured, as expected from the heir of the Sheriff family, classic ice magic. Chris's jaw dropped. Whoa, all those sparkles and crashes, it looks so damn cool. With a final thrust, Angelina's ice spear struck true, sending her opponent sprawling. Referee. That's enough. Class X's Angelina Sheriff takes the win. Angelina grinned proudly. Naturally. She turned to look at Chris with smug, expectant eyes. Why does she look like my family's dog when it's being smug? I want to praise her, but I gotta stay in character. Chris barked. What are you waiting for? Get back here! Now. Angelina flinched. I was already on my way. Eugene folded his arms. One more win, and it's over for us. Chris cracked her knuckles. Let's finish this cleanly. Dolce. Dolce skipped forward, beaming. Professor! I'll tie them down for you. Dolce suddenly raised her hand and announced loudly. I forfeit. Everyone nearby was caught by surprise. Nika's eyes widened in shock as she quickly spoke up. Eh? Why? Did you suddenly feel unwell or something? You're not thinking of letting the teacher go on a date or something, are you? Hearing this, Chris also turned his head, surprised. He thought to himself, huh? What's a date? Well, whatever. Let's just hear her reason first. Chris then asked directly, Did you get cold feet? But Dolce shook her head with a carefree grin. Nah, it's not like that. I just thought it would be unfair. I mean, it's against the rules for me to participate in a one-on-one match, right? Chris furrowed his brow slightly, his mind spinning. Well, that's certainly true, he admitted internally. This kid has an invisible sixth member of the protagonist's party. After all, she has her twin sister with her. However, that fact was supposed to remain an absolute secret. Due to various complicated circumstances, no one else was supposed to know about Dolce's twin. What are you planning? Chris wondered warily. Dolce then turned toward Michael with a bright, teasing smile and said, So win in my place, okay. Michael. Chris sighed inwardly. As I thought, she's trying to score points. She probably thinks she's giving the protagonist a chance to shine. Well, it's not a problem to lose once or so. He then called out to Michael. Michael! Are you prepared? Michael clenched his fists tightly, his expression full of determination. Yes. I'll give it my all and definitely secure victory. Well, it's just a match between students, Chris thought, somewhat reassured. It should be fine. Now, the match officially began. Michael stepped into the arena. Standing in front of him was a menacing-looking student with a cruel smirk on his face. The academy bully. The bully sneered. "Hey, Michael, you cursed, disgusting commoner. You should be grateful that I'm your opponent." The moment Chris saw that student's face, his eyes widened in horror as a cold sweat ran down his back. "Oh no. I forgot. There are mob characters who bully the protagonist." The bully stepped forward, provoking further. "Hey, don't just stand there silent. Say something, will ya?" But Michael remained silent, his face stiff, unable to respond. Chris clenched his fists. It can't be helped that there are characters who provoke the protagonist in this setting. But now is not the time. The bully, sensing Michael's hesitation, grinned maliciously and delivered a cruel, unforgivable blow. "How does it feel to come to the academy after killing your mother, you piece of trash?" Michael's entire body tensed, his expression twisted in pain and anger. A sharp headache struck him. "Don't say that," he managed through gritted teeth. Chris's nerves were on edge. It wasn't just his magic power that increased after that incomplete awakening the other day. That was something different from an awakening. A concerned teacher nearby leaned in and asked, "What's wrong? Are you okay, kid?" Michael gritted his teeth harder, glaring at the bully. "No good. Quickly run away," he warned in a strained voice. Seeing Michael's condition rapidly deteriorating, Chris's heart pounded. That's a sign of going berserk. But the foolish bully ignored him and scoffed. "Huh? What are you saying? Just stay still. I'll take you down in one hit." Chris could feel his nerves fraying. This is bad. Now's not the time to worry about character roles. Without hesitation, he shouted loudly to the entire arena. "Match cancelled!" But it was too late. A dark, ominous energy began pouring out of Michael's body, surrounding him like a thick, malevolent fog. The evil aura grew thicker and thicker, crackling in the air. Teachers and students alike stared in horror. Chris's face went pale as fear gripped him. It's over. He's completely turned into a monster now. The sinister, demonic presence around Michael intensified. His face twisted, his real, monstrous side, hidden beneath his usual gentle appearance, was now visible to all. A collective scream echoed across the arena. "Monster! Monster!" The students panicked and began shouting in terror. The bully who had mocked him earlier was now trembling in fear, his voice quivering as he pleaded. Please! Help me! Somebody!" Michael's monstrous form slowly stepped forward toward the bully, his eyes glowing with hatred. At that moment, a familiar ding sound echoed in Chris's mind as a system notification appeared before his eyes. Quest difficulty may change depending on the situation. Please successfully complete the class as a teacher. Chris gritted his teeth in frustration. Every single time, they push unreasonable demands on me. They want me to stop the protagonist's rampage, with my own hands. He knew he had no other choice. Without wasting a moment, he quickly moved toward Michael. The students watching gasped in shock. Teacher Chris! Chris clenched his jaw. The only saving grace is, this place is designed so that no one dies. Plus, that kid probably still has some reason left. But before he could reach Michael, Eugene, another teacher, quickly appeared beside him. Eugene summoned magical chains and tried to bind Michael in place. The glowing chains wrapped around Michael's monstrous form, but in an instant, he tore through them with frightening ease and sent Eugene flying backwards. The crowd screamed in terror. Teacher Eugene! Ugh! Everyone fall back! All faculty members, prepare binding magic! But another teacher shouted in panic. It's no use. It won't work. That abnormal magic power is blocking our spells. One of them cried out. Teacher Chris! What are you doing? Please, run away quickly! But Chris didn't panic. He pushed forward, stepping fearlessly into the corrupted aura. Michael's monstrous figure paused for a moment, his monstrous eyes catching sight of Chris. Something in them flickered. If it's Chris, she definitely won't run away. one student whispered. Michael, though trembling, still retained a tiny shred of his consciousness. His mouth opened weakly. Teacher. No. Run. Run away. Quickly. Chris took a steady breath. I almost broke character from being too scared. But I can't give up here. He still recognizes my face. Now's my chance. Without a word, Chris stepped up and stared into Michael's eyes. Michael's body stiffened as he began to sweat nervously. In an instant, Chris lashed out with a swift kick to Michael's knee, causing him to buckle. He grabbed Michael by the collar and pulled him in close, his gaze fierce and unwavering. He spoke with a voice like steel. Is this the strength you desire? It doesn't matter what fate you bear. If you make a true resolution, you can be reborn as a strong person. That's why I said you can become strong. There won't be a next time. He stared into Michael's eyes. Come back, Michael. The words struck deep inside Michael's heart. His monstrous aura wavered. Come back. Michael. Michael's eyes trembled, his body quivering. Slowly, a trace of his true self returned. And with that, Chris turned to his student and called out. Let's go back, Michael. Without waiting for a reply, he walked away, leaving the tense atmosphere behind. Some time later, Chris found himself alone, his mind still reeling from the recent events. Suddenly, a sharp pain coursed through his body, and he winced, clutching his side. Ow! That hurt! He groaned, his voice tight with pain. I'm gonna die! That's totally right? Just then, a familiar chime sounded, and a translucent system window shimmered into existence before him. Quest completed. You received the Dalua Academy map for 4th Rotten Mandragora route. The map has been updated. Location detection feature unlocked. Rotten Mandragora route. Consumable. Effect: recovery speed increased by 200%. Side effect: Wish of the Earth God. You've completed all of Chapter 1 of the quest. Chris sighed deeply, muttering to himself. I left those students behind, and that creepy slit-eyed guy too. But I guess I did get some rewards out of it. The Vidalua Academy map, and now I've unlocked location detection. He paused, furrowing his brow. Still, I'm worried about Michael, but... He crouched down near a doorway and cautiously peeked inside a dimly lit room. His heartbeat quickened, but he forced a casual expression onto his face, masking his concern with a thin veil of indifference. It doesn't really fit my character to get involved, he thought. Let's just say it's because I have trauma from losing a student. As he steeled himself to leave, a calm voice echoed from inside the room, startling him. I knew you'd come, the voice said warmly. You really are a kind person. Please come in. Chris's eyes widened, recognizing the voice. He stepped inside, where Eugene awaited him with a faint smile. That was a reckless move, Chris scolded, his voice sharp, though not entirely devoid of concern. Eugene let out a short laugh. Ah, so you noticed? He replied, a glimmer of amusement in his eyes. Chris's gaze narrowed as a memory surfaced. Come to think of it, when he jumped in earlier, he didn't cast any defensive magic, did he? Did he really go in with just his body? Is he seriously that dumb? Eugene, as if sensing his thoughts, shrugged nonchalantly. I was confident I wouldn't die, and if it let me earn a favor from you, it was a small price to pay. So, about our bet. Eugene continued, his grin widening. Technically, Class X has more wins. Chris shot him a deadpan stare. Obviously you lose. Eugene feigned contemplation for a moment, then burst into laughter. Then how about this? I'll treat you to celebrate your win, Professor. Chris folded his arms. Aren't you forgetting the conditions of the bet? Eugene winked. Well, I hit my head, so I might have forgotten. With a scoff of disbelief, Chris turned to leave. I'm done with you. Behind him, Eugene called out cheerfully. It's a personal invitation, so contact me anytime. Once outside, Chris let out a long, exhausted sigh. What the hell is going on? Was this a dating sim or something? How did it come to this? Before he could gather his thoughts, the system window popped up again with a crisp chime. From Chapter 2 onward, the route will branch based on player choices. Tap a choice to view route details. Route 1, Demon King. Route 2, Holy Emperor. Route 3, none of the choices. Chris squinted at the screen. What kind of choices are these, and why is there a tiny heart icon on the side? He tapped the explanation button. Demon King Route. You've infiltrated Vidalua Academy as a spy for the Demon King. Your mission is to recruit Michael Foxon to the Demon King's side and conquer the world. Characters on the Demon King's side will be friendly. Characters on the Holy Emperor's side will be hostile. Chris grimaced. Turning the protagonist into a demon army member, huh? He switched to the next explanation. Holy Emperor Route. You've betrayed the Demon King and decided to raise new talent at Vidalua Academy. Your mission is to make Michael Foxon swear loyalty to the Holy Emperor and stop the Demon King's resurrection. Characters on the Demon King's side will be hostile, characters on the Holy Emperor's side will be friendly. So you raise Michael as a Holy Knight instead? Chris muttered. Then came the final option, none of the choices. Seriously? Indecisiveness gets you hated, you know? Not recommended for the incompetent. Characters on both the Demon King and Holy Emperor sides will be hostile. Chris sighed, rubbing his temples. So I have to pick a side? Well, yeah, it's safer to belong to a group if you want to survive, but if I choose the Holy Emperor route, I'll have to deal with fanatics like Maria. And if I pick the Demon King route, that perverted slit eye will turn against me, right? I hate both of them. After a long pause, Chris jabbed his finger at the final option. Guess there's only one choice. Route selected. Good luck. No turning back now. Chris drew in a deep breath and thought to himself, I don't regret this choice. The flap of a butterfly's wings can sometimes stir up a storm. Wait, just a sec. I'm a legitimate main character, right? So why am I getting kicked out of my workplace? The next day arrived too soon. Professor Chris, a staff member called out. You're on leave starting tomorrow, right? The headmaster said you're taking a month-long break, so I'll be taking over Class X. Chris's eyes widened in disbelief. What did you say? A dreadful realization dawned on him. The reason they're suddenly forcing me on leave despite all my usual freewheeling. Holy Emperor side characters grow suspicious of you. Could this be because of the route I picked? A quick check of his status confirmed it. Route, none of the choices. Chris Doetin. Fame 10. Rumor. A suspicious person. He let out a sigh. Well, it did say people would grow suspicious, but the other routes came with way more risk. Besides, Chris is supposed to be the kind of character you can never tell what he's thinking. Didn't think I'd get kicked out though. The Demon King route is out of the question, and the wording in the Holy Emperor route, swear loyalty, bothers me. Fanatics show up in the original story too, and there's no guarantee Michael won't become one. And thanks to this damn setting, I can't even beg them to let me undo it. Let's just treat this like a nice vacation. Then, another system notification appeared before him. Wish of the Earth God. 2-1. Did you know? It's almost time for Parent Observation Day. Chris paled. That's news to me. The system continued mercilessly. The students' parents are dying to know how their tuition money is being used. As a professor living off their money, it's your duty to make Class X's Observation Day a success. On failure, 72 hours 00 minutes. Chris clutched his head in horror. You've got to be kidding me. Elementary school? I mean, can I even teach a class that's presentable? No, more importantly, right now I'm... He stared blankly ahead. Becoming a NET. A determined look crossed his face. This isn't the time to be calling it a vacation. I will return to work within 72 hours. For the sake of my survival. A while later, Chris's students were all seated in their classroom. Michael, surprised, turned to Bella and asked, Master's on leave? Bella nodded and replied, Yes, it seems a temporary master will be assigned for now. I don't know the reason though. Dolce scoffed. He probably got fed up and bailed. Honestly, he was never the kind to be tied down by teaching. I bet he just got sick of us. Angelina glared at her and scolded. Stop it. It's cowardly to badmouth someone when they're not here. Michael grinned. Saying that with a face like yours isn't very convincing, princess. Angelina's eyes welled up, on the verge of tears. What's wrong with my face? She snapped. Bella tried to ease the tension. Maybe he just needed some rest, or perhaps something unavoidable happened. At that, Nika suddenly stood up. That's right. Master took responsibility for the recent incident. As soon as Nika blurted it out, Bella smacked him on the shoulder, forcing him back into his seat. Both Angelina and Bella then glanced toward Michael, who was unnervingly quiet. His expression was heavy, and it was clear something was weighing on his mind. I knew my rampage made the master get summoned all over the place, but I thought it was all resolved with the principal's sealed order. Did the master take responsibility in my place? If a person truly resolves themselves, they can be reborn as a disciple, and yet I haven't even thanked him. Michael muttered under his breath. I have to do something. And then suddenly he shouted. Definitely, I'll bring Master back. Meanwhile, Nika came sprinting down a hallway, throwing open the door to a teacher's room. Temporary Master! It's urgent! Please convey my message to the principal, the teacher sighed. Sanai-kun? How many times have I told you, my name is? There's no time for that. Nika interrupted. Michael's about to lose control. The teacher pressed a hand to her forehead, muttering to herself, how many times has it been now? I only took this job because all the students here come from influential families. But they never listen to anything I say. How long is this ridiculous farce going to continue? She spoke aloud. Another rampage, huh? Fine, let's go. Back in Class X. As they arrived, the teacher wordlessly stared at Michael, who immediately launched into exaggerated acting. Something inside me is about to explode. Dolce, helping with the theatrics, tugged at Michael's clothes and muttered. That's not nearly dramatic enough. Put some real passion into it. Come on, strip off those clothes too. Bella, joining in, reassured them. Don't worry, I'll heal any injuries. The teacher watched their antics and thought grimly, what terrible actors. Finally, she said flatly. Michael, if a student starts going out of control, a spell triggers an alert to the faculty. By the way, there's been 0 alerts so far. So no problem, right? Michael paused. I see, sorry. But Nika wouldn't give up. Only Master Chris can calm you down, right? Are you giving up already? Master will come back to stop you. The plan can't fall apart now. The teacher thought bitterly, Chris. What's so great about that rude man? I'll just have to endure this circus until Parent-Master Day. As long as I stay on good terms with their powerful parents, I'll be fine. But what the temporary teacher didn't realize was, after this ridiculous act, the students would stir up even bigger trouble. At another place, at an inn called Frog's Rest, the innkeeper was cleaning glasses while keeping a wary eye on Chris. 50 years running this place, and I've never had a guest like him. At first, I thought he was just a shady traveler, but he's been sitting there for 3 hours straight, scowling, drinking top-shelf wine, taking over the entire floor. The atmosphere's so heavy, no other customers will even approach. What is this presence? Is he the demon lord in disguise? Is today the day this inn gets destroyed? No, surely not. Just then, another customer arrived. The innkeeper quickly welcomed him, but when he got a proper look, his face stiffened. It's Duke Sharif? Angelina's father? The innkeeper's heart pounded. And if that wasn't enough, another figure stepped in behind the Duke. It was Natasha Tot, Nika's mother. Honestly, she scolded. I told you not to take off your hood. See, you've left everyone speechless. The Duke replied calmly. Tot, I don't recall making any seductive advances. Natasha smirked. I didn't say anything about seductive advances, did I? You're well aware of how good-looking you are. The innkeeper's body trembled with fear. And before he could recover, a gruff voice cut through the room. Shouldn't getting rooms be the first priority? My head's pounding for the first time in years. The voice came from a short, red-haired man, Henry Bright, Dolce's father. Finally, someone normal-looking, the innkeeper thought with relief. Henry spoke. 3 rooms. Will 3 high-grade magic crystals be enough? I've been shut away in the magic tower for 80 years, so I'm out of touch with current rates. When the innkeeper saw the sparkling magic crystals, his jaw nearly hit the floor. T3 high-grade magic crystals, those could buy several inns. And did he just say 80 years? Oh gods, what day is it today? Just then, Natasha's gaze shifted toward the corner where Chris sat. Bright, she said cautiously. There's something I've been wondering about. She stepped forward, unsheathing her sword and pressing it to Chris's neck. Your killing intent has been leaking since earlier. Do you have business with us? The innkeeper nearly fainted from fear, and the other's attention snapped toward Chris. But Chris remained calm, sipping his wine. Then, with a dark, growling voice, he muttered, Get lost, unless you want your head bashed in. Natasha grinned. Oh? Is that so? Maybe your head'll fall off first. The tension between the two flared dangerously. Neither side willing to back down. The innkeeper forced a smile and thought, I'm quitting the inn business,